Good morning. This is Pastor Terry from Tuscola United Methodist Church. Today is Wednesday, day 3 of our isolation, and I'm trying to put out a video every day to kind of help us through this challenging time in our lives. So today's topic is on fear. There are so many verses in the Bible that talk to us about fear because fear is such a natural human response. One of my favorite verses is Joshua 1:9. I hereby command you, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Isaiah 41:10 says, do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, and I will uphold you with my victorious right hand. Psalm 56:3 says, when I am afraid, I put my trust in you. Sometimes when you hear these verses, if you're like me, you think, well, that's easier said than done. How am I supposed to not be afraid? Fear is, as I mentioned earlier, a natural response. It is something that all human beings feel at some point in their lives. And some fear is actually a very healthy fear. Think about a fear of fire. A fear of fire is a good thing because it keeps us from being burned. If you weren't afraid of fire, it's a very beautiful thing. It would be a desire to reach out and touch something that is harmful for us. So if fear can be a good thing, when is fear turned into a bad thing? When does concern for health and safety, like we currently are experiencing right now, turn into unfounded fear? For me, I believe it's a very tight line. There's a line that on one side is good, healthy fear, and on the other side is destructive fear. And that is the point when fear causes us to be selfish and overly concerned about our own situation. If fear takes away our Christian principles of love and faith and hope, then fear becomes damaging. Now, the interesting thing about fear in this day and age, as we're living through this, is that it takes a number of forms. The first form is fear for our own safety. Of course, we're afraid of getting the virus, but sometimes this fear is not a selfish fear. Sometimes it's fear for others that we love. We fear for our family. We fear for our friends. I know I am concerned for my parents, and they are just barely in the vulnerable range, but I still am, of course, concerned. I check in with them daily. I want to make sure they're not going out in public. There's also other types of fear. There's the fear of a financial collapse that is unfortunately is looking more and more like a reality right now as we see people who have jobs not being able to work. We see the stock market collapsing. We don't know what this is going to look like for us, but there is a fear in what is going to happen to our finances. There's also the fear of not having enough. And sometimes that's financially related, and sometimes it's simply that the stores will run out, hence the run on toilet paper last week. It was fear that caused us all to run out to the store and shop desperately for toilet paper. It's fear. And as I said, some fear is healthy. Some fear is keeping us from making bad decisions. I have chosen to, as much as possible, self-isolate, not just for fear for my own health and safety, but as I mentioned, my family is in a vulnerable position. And to me, I want to make sure that they are safe. And so by doing this, I'm also protecting other vulnerable members of society. So in that case, fear can be good. Where fear is bad is when I start to become selfish, when I start to hoard, when I start to say, you know what, let everybody take care of themselves. I'm worried about me and my family. Everybody else is on their own. That is a dangerous fear, and that goes directly against who we are as Christians. So how do we manage this? To me, there's one verse that I just keep saying over and over to myself during this time of fear, and that is Philippians 4:6-7, which says, "Do not worry about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." So there's two parts of this. The first part is, yeah, we need to be praying. Absolutely, we need to be praying. We need to pray for our society. We need to be praying for those who are vulnerable. We need to be praying for healthcare workers. We need to be praying for scientists who are currently working on vaccines. We need to be praying for government officials, not just here in the United States, but all around the world. We need to be praying. But there's another key phrase in there that I think is so important. Do not worry about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. With thanksgiving. And this is what's really important, because praying over and over for our safety and health, even the safety and health of all the world, can still have the effect of turning us into self-centered people. We're just coming to God and all we're saying is, "God, please, please, please get rid of this. Help us." Yes, that's important. I'm not saying don't do that. But what this verse is telling us is, take a moment and also pray for the things you're thankful for. Thank God, because what this does is it helps us not continue to feed our fear, but it provides us a prayer that allows us to think about what we're grateful for, which puts everything into perspective. So today I have a challenge for you, and I'm going to take this challenge on too, and that is to tell each other, what are some things you are thankful for during this time of the coronavirus. For me, I am thankful. This might sound silly, but I remember when I was a kid and my mother would want to talk to her mom, and all the long distance rates meant that she could call once a week and they would take turns paying for it. And it was a big deal. Think about how easily we can communicate now. I can check on my parents every single day. And I'm telling you, I do. I have about an hour phone call with them, an hour phone call with my sister, at least 30 minutes to an hour with one of my best friends, and then other people as well. Because it's so good to be able to hear them and talk to them and have some idea of how they're doing. So I am incredibly grateful for the fact that we can communicate so easily. I'm incredibly grateful that we live in a time where I can put out videos and communicate with you and hear your responses back to me so that we don't feel so isolated during this time. I am incredibly grateful that there are so many people that I love and who love me. And that makes all of this a lot easier to go through. And most importantly, I am incredibly grateful that we have a God who loves us. We have a God who is here and wants to hear our prayers and wants to hear our supplications. Asking us to pray with thanksgiving isn't a way to not hear our cries. It's a way to remind us it's not all bad. It's not all bad. So I invite you today, please share with me and everybody else in the church what it is that you are grateful for. I want to say God bless you all, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.